Hello.
Hello, Mr. President, this is Arlene.
Oh. Yeah. Hello, Arlene.
I'm
Yeah.
not waking you,
No. I'm a night owl.
Oh, yeah. What's the deal with that Watergate thing? Do you know anything about it?
Oh, no. Absolutely nothing. I don't know a thing. No way, Jose.
Oh, because I live in the Watergate, and one time we saw that Liddy guy there, and then we saw him at the White House, and now he's gonna go to jail.
Arlene, is there something I can do for you or your family?
No?
There must be something you desire.
I have to go now. Good night. My sweet prince.
We're back.
Woo!
Welcome back to the show, everybody.
Woo!
My name is Pete.
And I'm Scott.
And these are the movies that made us gay.
Woohoo! Yeah.
We did it. I think we did it. We did it in sync that time.
We did it in sync that time, yes.
Wonderful. Well, boys and girls, we're back once again. This is episode 12.
12 weeks, wow.
Episode 12 of Movies That Made Us Gay. I can't believe we made it this far.
A lot of really fun guests that we've had on.
Yeah, we've actually had some really great guests. We don't have a guest today. It's just the two of us.
It's just us.
It's just like the old days.
Just like the old days.
Of just the two of us doing a show together, which is awesome. We've got a lot of good show to talk about today.
Oh, man. I love this movie. So we watched the teen political comedy Dick from 1999, directed by Andrew Fleming, and also written by Andrew Fleming and Cheryl Longen. And Dick, this is a movie... Did you grow up on Dick?
No.
Yes, I loved this movie as like a 14-year-old when it came out.
Yeah.
So I definitely remember the summer of 99 when this came out.
Mm-hmm.
This was a very big year for its star, Kirsten Dunst. Drop Dead Gorgeous had just come out.
Right.
And Dick followed about a month later. And I remember seeing the television ads for this movie and just getting so excited for it. And of course it didn't open anywhere near my small town.
Right.
I had to wait all the way until December when it came out on home video the week before Christmas. And it was released the same day as Drop Dead Gorgeous. Because I remember Christmas break reserving it from the movie store, our hometown video store that I later worked at.
Which was called?
It was called the movie store.
Ah, clever name.
Clever name. And I remember reserving this and Drop Dead Gorgeous on the same rental, and we got to keep them a day late.
Oh, the rentals came out the same day, not the movies didn't premiere the same day.
No, I said earlier that Dick followed it a month later in August.
Sure.
Drop Dead Gorgeous came out in July, and Dick came out in August of 99. Summer 99. Big summer.
And the Virgin Suicides came out
2000. That came out at Sundance 2000. So
yeah. Like maybe within 6 months of this movie.
Mm-hmm. It was the late 90s. It was a big Kirsten
So Kiki
Dunst
had like 3
renaissance.
movies in a row.
Yeah.
Wow.
She did she did this, Drop Dead Gorgeous.
And the Virgin Suicides.
The Virgin Suicides, and also Bring It On. Too.
Wow.
So she had a real big late 90s. And like I said, I rented those two movies together, and we got to keep them a day extra because of Christmas. So, yes, I watched these both back-to-back during the Christmas break. Yeah. A little background on this movie. Its director, Andrew Fleming, and his co-writer, Cheryl Longen, wanted to write a movie that lamented on the late 70s. And it was originally conceived as a movie called Beast of Burden, that was its working name, about a single mom raising their kids in the 1970s. And they kept returning to one of the daughters and their friend. These were kind of the two characters that they would focus on the most. So they just figured, why not just write a movie that revolves around them? And they were always kicking around the idea of making Watergate a really big part of the movie. Mm-hmm. And Andrew Fleming just thought, wouldn't it be fun if we put 2 teenage girls at the center of all of this and just make them Deep Throat? Yeah. Deep Throat, of course, was the notorious source for Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein, who are in the movie Dick. And just make them the source.
Woodward and Bernstein in this movie are played as buffoons by Will Ferrell and Bruce McCullough. This movie is full of Kids in the Hall, Saturday Night Live, alums, and it's just full of comedians, really great comedians from the late 90s. And its two stars, Michelle Williams and Kirsten Dunst, are so funny.
Funny in this movie.
It's really it's extremely well done.
And what's super clever about it is that if you know a little bit about the background of Watergate, they put everything in this movie. Every single little Watergate plot point they reference in this movie.
Sure.
There is reference to the creep list, the Watergate break-in, the plumbers who were the task force in the Nixon administration that would try to kind of put a stop to all of the leaks. That's in the movie, too.
Betsy and Arlene putting duct tape on the lock in the Watergate garage. That was also... That's what alerted the guard at the Watergate to call the cops, right? Was the duct tape on the lock?
Yeah.
So they wrote in all these little things, but they gave excuses for these two 15-year-olds to plant all of these little bits of the Watergate, puzzle. And it's really interesting the way that they did that.
Yeah, and Andrew Fleming said that his idea was to make an All the President's Men crossed with a Haley Mills movie from the 60s.
Sure.
Too.
That makes sense. That's really good.
Definitely. So, and also just kind of a movie focusing on the 70s, because the 70s, it's a very weird and specific time in America that was very transitional, too. It was kind of it was a time of like political unrest, a time of also excess too in culture, also a very dark period in the 1970s. They call it the Satanic 70s. Too. Just kind of weird. There were serial killers running about. There was crazy rock music, and then disco music followed. Kind of sexual revolution to the women's rights. And it was just all this weird melting pot of the 1970s.
And the fashion was amazing.
Definitely.
I just feel like the fashion in the 1970s is crazy because you saw normal... like straight-laced business people wearing plaid and floral print
and very thick ties
to work. Like what the hell? Like I don't understand how just regular old straight businessmen were just like, yes, this plaid sports coat is appropriate for my office job. But that was very very specific to that weird time frame and just the America's state of mind. Everybody was just kind of cuckoo at that point.
Yeah, and I was also reading that the wardrobe in this movie, the costume designer found all of these 70s clothes untouched in a warehouse in Denver, and they used them in the movie. So Kirsten and Michelle are actually wearing vintage clothes that were unworn in the 70s, too.
Yeah, because all their clothes, theirs specifically... But yeah, everyone else is very period specific. I thought that the wardrobe there were some really good choices with the two of them, and Michelle Williams' character's name is Arlene, and I just love that name, Arlene.
Betsy and Arlene are very old names that you never hear anymore.
Yeah. I mean, Betsy is just like Elizabeth, but you just never hear anybody named Elizabeth being called that. But yeah, Arlene, that's a very, that's kind of a lost name. But she has, she's wearing a top at one point, and it says Arlene on it. It's a plot point in the movie. Someone says, oh, it's nice to meet you, Arlene. She's like, how did you know my name? He's like, it's embroidered on your blouse. And she just says, Arlene, right there on her shoulder. It's just so cute. But these characters are amazing.
When they're first introduced and they're writing the letter to Bobby Sherman...
Yeah.
The contest for Bobby Sherman, and there's Kiki at that typewriter.
Yeah.
I have to have some time to review my letters. I love that scene.
She's using whiteout right on this typewriter, and she doesn't give it enough time to dry, and she just smudges right on the whiteout, which is called back later on in the movie when she says she typed out the transcript of one of the Watergate tapes to give it to Woodward and Bernstein, and she says 30 words a minute. I pass typing, which I think is in itself is a joke because 30 words a minute's not that fast. I think 40 words a minute now is kind of like acceptable to get a typing certificate, and I did like a quick like online test, and I was like 60 or something. Like 40's really easy. So 30 words a minute, I think, was just like, all right, she just barely passed
the C
by the skin of her teeth. This typing class in high school. Okay, so you really enjoyed this movie when it came out. It
Yes,
came out on home
loved
video.
it.
You rented it, watched it over and over again. What is it about this type of movie? I mean, it's funny. So that right off the bat is just like,
I mean,
yeah,
all I
it's
saw on those
rewatchable.
ads were Michelle Williams from Dawson's Creek
Sure.
and Halloween H2O and Kirsten Dunst from like Interview with the Vampire.
From everything, yeah.
And from everything.
Yeah.
And
you were
I was
like,
just
I'm in.
sold. Nixon administration, I'm in. And it's so weird that this is like a political satire and it's sold to like 16-year-old girls.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll give you a hint. It didn't do that well at the box
No, it
office,
didn't
too.
do that well. That's why I didn't see it in the theater. I really don't think I saw it. We were having this conversation the other day. I don't remember if I just was like, I'm going to watch this movie, or if you introduced me to it. I don't remember if the first time I watched it was with you or if I just was like,
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm going to watch it. I have a funny story that a friend of mine tells. I won't say his name. It's funny. It's not that bad of a story, but he rented it at Blockbuster and it was late. And his mom went to go to Blockbuster and they're like, "You have a late charge." And she was like, "For what?" And they looked it up and they said, "Dick."
You have a late charge for dick,
She was like,
ma'am.
"What?" I'll DM you if you want to know which friend of
I
mine.
bet that
it was.
happened a lot with this.
Speaking of Michelle Williams and H2O, we were just praising how authentic and period the costuming was, but those
Are you talking
those
about
brows,
her pencil thin
those
eyebrows?
pencil thin eyebrows?
She
of
has
Michelle
those in
Williams.
H2O too.
Well, yeah, that's
Mhm.
that's why I bring it up. When she removes her glasses and gets contacts halfway through the movie, I was just like, "Ooh, you can really tell those brows are they're period, not 70s.
Mm-hmm.
They're period from when the movie was made. Period now." So yeah, we should get into a little bit of what's going on in this movie because it's really cute. Just the two of them are so likable, and it's just, I mean, Kirsten did her share of teen comedies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's no stranger to just like comedic work. A great dramatic actress in her own right, but good at comedies. But Michelle Williams she hasn't revisited comedy.
Not quite like this.
Not quite like anything.
Yeah.
She's not a comedy girl.
Well, now she's like Meryl Streep now.
That's what I'm saying. She's
Yeah,
not a
like
comedy girl. What was the last lighthearted Michelle Williams movie she's done?
4 Oscar nominations later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
That like hilarious one where she was like homeless with her dog.
That hysterical Blue Valentine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really love Blue Valentine.
So, but I think she's really funny in this, really cute, and it's just, I think she's just this kind of actress now that she's just so serious, you know, that it's like, I don't know if people would really accept her doing comedies anymore, or maybe she just
I'd like
thinks
to see
she's
her in
above
more
it.
comedies.
Who knows? Yeah, I would like to see her in more comedies.
I love
as
Michelle
well,
Williams.
because the two of them have great chemistry together. They play ditzy 15-year-olds like so funny. They just do not have a care in the world. Everything to them is just like, oh my god, I can't believe this. Like everything, they're just like, what?
And they have each other.
Yeah,
too.
They're only friends. Yeah, they're the kind of friends that they're each other's only friend, and everybody thinks they're kind of weirdos or dorks or idiots or whatever, but they don't care. Like they don't care. They have each other. They have Bobby Sherman, and eventually they have Dick.
Did you ever write a fan letter to a celebrity when you were a teenager?
No, I never wrote a fan letter to anyone.
I did. I think I told you this last night. It was to Allison Hannigan from Buffy the Vampire
Oh,
Slayer.
sure, yeah.
Yep. It wasn't to win a date with her.
Did you get a form letter back?
I did get a reply back. It was from the WB, from their fan letter department at the
Sure.
WB at the time, but
Cute.
I got a picture of the entire season 4 cast back.
Wow.
Yep.
That's good. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's like an 8x10.
Yeah, it's like a little photo. I had it hanging up on my wall.
Was it black and white?
No. It
Full
was a
color.
glossy. It was a
color.
glossy colored photo, and the back had photographed autographs by the entire cast.
But like copied autograph.
But it was copied though.
And like your mailman didn't like fold it.
No, it
wasn't
said
like
"Do
crease?
not fold"
Well,
on the letter.
wow, that's cool. I never wrote fan letters, and I just always thought like, I always in my head it was just like, they will never see that. Like if it never occurred to me to do it, but if anytime I ever saw someone do it, like on a TV show or in a movie or whatever, I would just be like, that will never get to, whoever. I always just thought in my head that there was this like bureaucracy that would like intercept, a fan letter or something like that. But that I was thinking about it when we were just rewatching it, that to enter this contest in 1974, 22?
It opens in 72.
72. In 1972, to enter this Bobby Sherman Win a Date with Bobby Sherman contest, she had to write this letter, type it out on a paper, and go mail it in the mailbox. And I mean, she had to like sneak out of her mom's house because the mom was like drunk, I assume, on the couch.
Mother played by Terry Garr.
Terry Garr's asleep on the couch. I'm projecting that she's drunk. But, they had to go out, get dressed, go downstairs, go to the mailbox, drop it off, and then just wait. Like, now if there was any sort of, like, win a date with, like, whoever, who do the kids like these days? David Hasselhoff. Well, to win a date with David Hasselhoff, you'd still have to throw it in the mail. But, I mean, now it's all done online.
Yeah.
All that stuff is done online, done on Instagram, like our page, hashtag this, send a picture, hashtag this on a picture of yourself, and then you'll be entered to win. But it's like, I remember those days when there would be like contests.
Yep. I
for
remember
like,
having to write into Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
When I was a kid.
Yeah. To get onto like Double Dare or whatever.
You had to send like a postcard.
Yeah.
To this random address in New York City.
Yeah. But nowadays, if kids want to win a date with, Joey Lawrence, they've got to, just go on their Instagram. On the gram.
So when they drop the letter in the mailbox, they discover Harry Shearer from The Simpsons.
Yes.
And they stumble onto the Watergate break-in.
Sure. He's playing G. Gordon Liddy, who orchestrated the break-in. And
Arlene lives in the apartment complex that was next to Watergate.
Yes. Well, it's actually in Watergate.
It's actually in Watergate. Yeah, there are apartments in it.
Yeah, because the Watergate Hotel is like a giant like pavilion with like the hotel rooms and like living, spaces and all that stuff.
Monica Lewinsky lived there.
Oh, Monica. Yeah. So they kind of stumble on like everything that had to do with this entire like scandal. They see the break-in, very first thing in the movie. They live in DC. The Arlene character lives in the Watergate, so that was their excuse to get them out of the building and get back in. They were sneaking out, so they had to use the parking garage entrance. And they put duct tape on the lock so they could get in from the outside. Security guards saw it, called the cops, and that's when the cops came and arrested all these people for the break-in. So that starts off the whole thing. It just like gets all the wheels in motion, and then the very next day, I think.
The very next day, they're taking a tour of the White House with their class.
Yes. And everybody's like bored as shit because it's like the White House and they're all teenagers. And I just always thought that this little bit I just thought was super funny. Hold on, where is it?
Has been confirmed that one of the arrested was formerly an employee of the CIA. A spokesman.
Aren't you students excited about visiting the home of the president and the first family?
Not really.
No. And after our tour, we're having lunch at McDonald's.
French fries.
I love that. She's like,
French fries.
French fries.
Going to I mean, I'm excited to go to McDonald's now, but
Yes.
if you were a teenager in the 70s, you would really be fucking excited to go to McDonald's.
No, just like field trips. Anytime
trips.
you do a field trip, you're just like, oh shit. Like, what are we going to do for lunch? We're going to be out and about. I always remember field trips and just be like, okay, all right, I got lunch money. What are we doing? You know? But, you know, my school field trips were like to Disneyland. So, you know.
Ours weren't that exciting.
That wasn't quite a field trip. That was like a big.
Ours were to like the greenhouse.
I mean, I think we
Not
just
the
went,
White House.
I think we just went to museums mostly.
I actually did go to Washington, D.C. in high school, but we did not go to the White House.
What'd you go to D.C. for if you didn't go to the White House?
There was some reason why we couldn't get in the White House, I
Oh.
think. I don't think that they were accepting tours that day.
Weak.
But yeah, I went with our poli-sci class.
Sure. So, well, that's cool. I mean, we never did out-of-state. I never went on any out-of-state field trips in school, but being in LA, most of our field trips were like museums, educational stuff like that, and then our Disneyland stuff was like special, different things. We had to sell candy for that. But okay, so they're on a tour of the White House. The two of them they like stumble upon G. Gordon Liddy. They like see him, and they can't really place him, but they knew that they knew him from somewhere.
Are you the guy that sells corn dogs at the mall?
Are you that guy that sells corn dogs at the mall? I love it. That you would just be walking through the White House. But they think he has toilet paper on his shoe. But it's a list of the committee to re-elect the president.
The creep list. Everybody on this list must be a bunch of creeps.
Yeah.
Has these guys with their name and a bunch of money next to it.
Yeah. And Kirsten Dunst is just like, oh, well, souvenir. And she like shoves it in Arlene's purse. I love that. But yeah, they get kind of entangled because they're in there. They see him. They kind of get distracted from their field trip, but they end up getting like intercepted by like White House people
because they want to question them because they know that they were there.
Right. Oh, because G. Gordon Liddy also recognizes them as well.
Yeah.
So everybody's just like, what do they know? What were they doing there? Why were they there for the break-in? So they get kind of pulled aside. And through a series of, shenanigans, they end up getting asked to be the official White House dog walkers.
And they meet President Nixon, played by Dan Hedaya. A very good Richard Nixon, too.
Yeah, I feel like
it's a pretty solid performance.
Dan Hedaya is an interesting choice, and he's a character actor. You know him, you love him. He plays Cher's dad and Clueless. He's in a ton of 80s movies.
Addams Family.
He's in Commando. He's in Addams Family.
He even kind of looks like Richard Nixon too.
Well, yeah, I think that's the idea. It's that I don't even think they really did anything to his face.
No.
I think they just put him in a suit and, slicked his hair back, and he just did this impression. But yeah, I think he's not an obvious choice, but he's really, really well cast.
He's a good comedy choice, but also just a good performance of Richard Nixon in general.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I mean, it definitely works for the comedy angle, but it's pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing the voice, but it's not like, it doesn't feel like he's doing an impression the entire time.
Yeah.
Like, he's definitely doing the voice and some phrasing and things like that. It's like, oh, okay. But he's not straight up just doing an impression through the whole movie where it gets tired. It's like he's doing a character, and it's really well done, and it's funny.
So is the idea of making them the official White House dog walkers because they want to keep these girls close to find out what they know?
Yeah, I think they want to keep an eye on them. Yeah, they want to keep an eye on them, bring them in. It's like, I think off the bat they're just like, they're a couple of idiots that don't know anything, but just in case.
I did a little research on Checkers the dog.
Sure.
So Checkers didn't actually live in the White House.
What?
The actual Checkers dog was a dog that Richard Nixon had in the 50s when he was running for vice president the first time. And I guess there's a really famous speech which he name checks Checkers.
Okay.
So they just chose to call the dog Checkers that they walk because he's the most famous dog connected to Richard Nixon.
Yeah.
But the actual dog that was living in the White House was an Irish setter by the name of Tim.
Okay.
That would have been the dog that Betsy and Arlene would have walked.
Okay. And it's funny just because they do end up walking this dog a bunch of times in the movie, and to get kind of access to the dog and access to Dick, they have to deal with his secretary, played by Anna Gasteyer, and this woman, Rosemary Woods. Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
she's got her own Wikipedia page.
Yeah, she's pretty famous, and I think Anna Gasteyer is pretty funny in that performance.
She says, "Oh my stars."
It's a very Anna Gasteyer performance.
I love that she says, "Oh my stars." But yeah, it's so interesting. As we were watching it, like you pointed her out, and I had forgotten that
it's
she was
very
in
well
it.
cast.
Yeah, and I looked it up, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, this woman, Rosemary Woods, she was like his right hand lady.
She was at the center of all of it.
Yeah, she was like right there.
She would probably like control the tapes and everything.
Yeah,
because they find them later in her desk.
Yeah, they find the whole recording like tape recorder device, like in her desk drawer. I love it. Yeah, this woman is she's quite the character if you look her up. And so I didn't, I just, when you earlier mentioned like, oh, Anna Gasteyer, I was like, well, I mean, are there pictures of Nixon's secretary? Like, who cares? But no, she was like a major player in the entire in his entire administration, but also within the Watergate scandal itself. She was like a major player, which is very interesting. That Nixon had this woman so close in his inner circle, because he's a lot of things, but I didn't think Richard Nixon would be that much of an equal opportunist with his hiring practices. Anyway,
so when they keep going back to the White House, when they do find their way back in, because at first they're denied, and then Betsy and Arlene have this plan that they're going to ask Dick to stop the war because Betsy's brother gets drafted. Betsy's brother, played by Brian Krakauer from My So-Called Life.
As
the 70s stoner brother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, oh my God, I remember Devin Gummersall, and he looks exactly like Brian Krakow.
Yeah,
he's got the Brian Krakow hair, but he's definitely playing a different character. So he's got some range.
He always has that quality of your friend's cute brother, too.
I guess, yeah. Now, My So-Called Life and that character, Brian Krakow, oh my goodness. I definitely... Yeah, I have a lot...
We have to do the Christmas episode of My So-Called Life in December. I was just thinking that today.
That's a really good episode. Have you seen Mr. Devin Gummersall these days?
I think he was on Mad Men.
He aged pretty well.
Yeah,
I remember
he looked pretty good on Mad Men.
I have to say he's aged fairly well. I'm like, all right, Devin Gummersall, you can get it. Not bad. Because I mean, Brian Krakow was just such a goofy looking kid, and even in this movie, he's a goofy looking kid. But yeah, he plays her stoner brother, and he gets drafted, and it's just like, oh my God, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
People are fucking getting drafted to go to Vietnam.
Yep.
That's so nuts.
Getting drafted to go to Vietnam, and there is a very good chance that you were not coming back.
Yeah.
Too.
So they're just like, okay, we're gonna sit down with Dick. We've got this private audience.
And
with the president.
as they're doing it, they're baking cookies for the president, which is Hello Dollies. And I love it. They have the Hello Dolly recipe hanging on the wall. It was framed.
It's
of the Hello Dolly recipe.
It's cross stitched.
It's cross stitched on the wall.
The rest. Okay, so apparently Hello Dollies are a kind of a cookie, which I don't think I've ever had.
I would always just know
one
it from
of those.
this movie.
Yeah,
but they would have to. They would put
people.
walnuts in the movie.
Shit, right there.
And there's weed in the walnuts.
Okay, so the thing is.
Because the brother.
So the thing is,
they're trying to walnuts.
They're trying to figure out a way to sit down and talk to the president about stopping the war. And as they're kind of coming up with this plan, they're in their nightgowns and they're walking through the kitchen, and they're in Betsy's house, her parents' house. And Betsy says, "Let's make them cookies. Let's bake them Hello Dollies," because they pass this framed cross stitch of the recipe of Hello Dollies, and it says Hello Dollies, and it's a recipe. She says, let's make them Hello Dollies, and she does this really cute hand gesture.
I love that scene.
And
when she displays the Hello Dolly.
Yeah, and it's really cute.
Stretch.
And it's very 70s to have like a cross stitch recipe like framed on your wall in the kitchen. And so they start making the cookies, and they're just talking about it and what they're going to say and la la la. And the recipe for Hello Dollies contains walnuts, and they get a jar full of walnuts. And Arlene's like, "What are these leaves in the walnuts?" And it's clearly like weed. It's a jar of walnuts with just weed sprinkled in there. And Betsy's like, "Oh, my brother said those are just leaves from the walnut tree."
Leaves from the walnut tree.
So what they do is they make a batch of Hello Dollies, and they cook them, or they bake them with these walnuts, and these walnuts have just been like soaking in weed this whole time. So they're essentially making pot cookies, right? So part of the conceit of this movie is that they keep taking these cookies to the president and passing them out, and everybody is eating the cookies and loving the cookies, and then they're all getting stoned off these Hello Dollies, and the weed is contributing. I think the idea is that the weed is contributing to Dick being more receptive to what the girls are saying, to people being a little bit more open about speaking in front of them.
It's also how they get in the front gates too.
Well, yeah, first
because the guards know that
the guards are like, "Oh, fuck these girls. Who cares? Get out of here." But then they're like, "Oh, these are the girls with the cookies." And when the next time they come, they're like, "Oh, fuck, did you bring those cookies?" And they're like, "Yeah, of course we did." And they're like, "Oh shit, yeah, come in." So everybody's passing around. The thing is, in this movie, people take one bite of a Hello Dolly and immediately are just fucking blazed out of their mind.
There must be a lot of weed in those cookies.
So that's just, I mean, we don't have the like 45 minutes it takes in between eating an edible, because I mean, edibles are a lot of things, but they're not fast. And we all have that story of like, this edible ain't doing shit, I'm gonna have another one, and then like an hour later you just are like about to jump off of a roof.
They're getting the Nixon administration high as a kite.
Yeah, so the idea is
they make world peace with the Russians. And it ends with all of them singing "Hello Dolly."
Yes, it's Nixon and who the hell is Nixon meeting with?
It's Nixon and Kissinger.
Well, Kissinger's is but it's the Russian guy. It's Brezhnev. Yeah, it's Nixon and Brezhnev. And he gets the Moscow Summit of 1972. Yeah. And and Nixon keeps calling him Leonid. Come on, Leonid. And like he gives him a cookie. You got to try one of these cookies. Come on, Leonid. And like he eats a cookie and he's just like, "Oh, hello, Dolly." And he's just like, he starts singing "Hello, Dolly."
Hello,
and Kissinger's
Dolly.
singing "Hello, Dolly." So they got Leonid Brezhnev stoned on these like weed cookies, and that led to the Moscow summit being a resounding success. But as we all know, those cookies would not have had the immediate effect that they had on Brezhnev. He literally takes a bite of the cookie and he's just like, "Well, hello, Dolly, hello, comrades." But yeah, would have taken a little bit more time than that. But we didn't have that kind of time in a movie. But yeah, so the Hello Dollies are a big plot point. And when later on at the end of the movie, when everything kind of becomes clear to everyone, Brian Krakow was like, maybe that's why he's so paranoid. Because that's one of the things about Nixon, is that he was just like super paranoid, and that's why he had like recording devices everywhere. But he just like inadvertently became a huge stoner, and he was just the type that got paranoid.
So during all of this, Arlene starts to develop a very serious crush on Richard Nixon.
Yeah, she does.
And she has her little scrapbook.
Yeah.
She puts her face on Pat Nixon's head. And she takes down all of her Bobby Sherman pictures, and she replaces it with pictures of Dick.
Yeah, she's got
hearts around them.
A huge collage on her
doodling
wall.
In her journal, Mrs.
Arlene
Nixon.
Yeah.
And there is a dream sequence that I fucking love.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny because it opens with Richard on a beach, horseback, because what more of an opposite person of a teenage girl to have a crush on than Richard Nixon? That's so funny.
Yeah.
And just this girly dream with them waltzing on the beach. He's making her a sandcastle, and it's the White House.
But it's the White House. Yeah.
You should play that clip of him first writing up.
Arlene, come away with me.
But what about Pat?
She understands.
I love that. She understands.
Lovers theme playing, and they're doing that thing where they're spinning around.
Yeah.
And it starts to go fasting.
They're doing the
faster.
Jack and Rose Titanic spin.
And they start to laugh.
Yeah.
But that's just so funny, and that's just the really smart timing that this movie has. It doesn't have to rely on gross out humor. It's just really just very precise and witty jokes in it.
Yeah. And
just kind of like what teenage girl would fantasize about being swept away by Richard Nixon.
Yeah. And I was going to say these two have a very almost like a Romeo and Michelle type of relationship.
Oh, definitely.
Because they're very kind of innocent with each other. Betsy never really questions it. Like, you're into Dick? Like, you're into Richard Nixon? Like, the president? That oily, gross, old fucking... He's like 60 and we're 15? That's her friend. She's into it. She's like, all right. There's one point where they're walking Checkers and they're like, oh, they must never
take him out.
Never take him out.
Will you look at that shit?
Yeah, look at that shit.
Oops.
Ooh, yeah. And she's like, oops. And she says shit. They're just like, ooh. And they just think it's so funny that she cursed.
I also love that scene kind of talking about them as friends in their own little world when they get back on the bus late and everyone's like giving them the stink eye.
Well,
and they get the...
Why is everybody giving them the stink eye?
Because they can't go to McDonald's.
Yeah. They were so late that they didn't get to go to McDonald's.
But I love they just sort of walk to their seat and then just shrug it off and laugh.
Yeah.
Like they do not give a shit.
They're walking down the bus, the walk of shame, and now they have to go straight back to school and eat gross cafeteria lunch. All the other buses are stopping at McDonald's except them, and everybody's like flipping them off and just like, but hiding their like middle finger with their other hand. And they're just like looking all like, oh, sorry. And then they get to their seat and they just start laughing. They're just like, fuck these idiots. There's one. I did say that Betsy doesn't question Arlene loving Dick, but there's that one scene, and this is the one moment where I mean the name of the movie's Dick. Dick is said so many times, but it's never really played that much for like gross out humor. But there is this is done a couple of times.
Has something been on your mind lately? Oh. Are you sure there isn't some deep feeling that you need to confess to your best and only friend?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Just say it!
Say what?
Just say it, because I already know!
Oh, God, I love Dick!
Yeah, I love Dick. And then
you can't let Dick control your life.
Yeah. And so they do it a couple of times where they refer to him as Dick in public. I love for the second
scene where Kirsten Dunst was like, do you guys mind? We're having like a private conversation here.
Yeah. Cause that's when she says you can't let Dick control your life, and everybody's just like, what? Yeah. Do you guys mind?
So their bubble is eventually burst, or kind of everything changes when they stumble onto the tapes.
Sure, they go to walk Checkers one last time, and his leash gets stuck in a drawer, and they open the drawer, and it's this recording device, And they're like, "Oh, okay, cool. Like we should record a message for Dick."
And Betsy's like, "I think it's time.
Yeah.
You have to tell him how you feel."
Yeah, so Arlene like leaves this long and drawn out message, which is 18 and a half minutes long, which is the length of missing Watergate tapes. There's a length of tape that was erased, and like to this day, there's like nobody knows what was on it. Nobody's ever said like I did it. It was just like this mysterious bit of tape that was erased.
I think they speculate that it was on Vietnam.
Mm-hmm. And it was 18 and a half minutes long. And so here we are. Here's our explanation. It was actually Arlene professing her love.
A 15-year-old professing her love for Richard Nixon. Did you have a clip of how they start that?
I do. Here we go. I believe it's this one.
If you care for him at all, you'll tell him.
Okay, you just have to go first.
Hi, Mr. President. This is Betsy and Arlene. We just wanted to thank you for letting us be your secret youth advisors and for letting us walk checkers and for, well, I don't know what else for, so here's Arlene. She has something very personal to tell you.
I love you.
I love you.
I know that you have a lot of things on your mind because you're the president and all, but I can't keep my feelings inside any longer. I've never felt this way about anybody before, not even Bobby Sherman, who I completely and totally adored, but now I realize that was just puppy love, and that this is the real thing.
Hi, sweetie.
And I realize that you're married and that we can never really be together, but I'll love you forever.
Good boy.
And, there's this song by Olivia Newton-John that I think best describes the way I feel about you. It goes like this. I love you. I honestly love you. You don't have to answer.
So
I love that little bit of business Kirsten has in the background talking to the dog during all of this.
Take a poo-poo.
And I love just how Michelle just like she has to take a deep breath. All right, I'm going to let it all out.
And that's I Honestly Love You by Olivia Newton-John.
I did look it up, and the song came out in 1974 because I was wondering, when did that song come out? Was it around the time? And yes, it was. It was in 1974.
But doesn't the movie takes place in 72 though, doesn't it?
Well, I think the timeline is a little liberal because I don't think Nixon resigns until 74.
Oh. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's not really super explicit as to how much time does pass.
Mm-hmm.
They're just in high school. That's kind of not really the point. So, yeah, so that little bit of them. So they're recording, and then she's like, okay, I just want to make sure, like, it got it. And she, like, rewinds it. And as she rewinds it, she goes past what she recorded and starts hearing what's actually on the tapes. And that's when she's just like, oh, fuck. Like, that's when they start finding out that he's not, the man that they thought he was. And
you're prejudiced, you kick checkers, and you have a potty mouth.
Yeah, and they find out that he's got files on them, and like, that
he tells checkers in the tape that he's going to feed him to the Chinese.
That's rude.
Mm-hmm.
See, he's prejudiced. Yeah, so they find out that he's gross and he's Richard Nixon, he's Tricky Dick, and they're over it. They're just like, fuck this. We are going to do whatever we can to take him down from the inside because they've got information, and they like hatch this scheme. I don't know how.
Well, it's funny how they get connected to Woodward and Bernstein because they're making prank phone calls.
Yeah,
they kind of stop everything when they're having a sleepover and are just like, prank phone call time.
Yeah.
and they end up calling up their office, and they start reading out. They start reading out the creep list.
Yeah.
Did you know that I read on IMDb in the trivia when she is giving her British ambassador voice that's a thinly veiled reference to Carl Bernstein's affair that he had with the daughter of a British ambassador.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's just a little like Easter egg in the script.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So I thought that was clever when I read that.
Yeah. So okay, yeah. I guess they just randomly stumble across Woodward and Bernstein.
Well, because their parents are talking about them because they're watching the Watergate coverage.
Oh.
Yeah, and the mom was saying about Woodward and Bernstein, like, how dare they attack the president?
Then they specifically decided to. So they specifically decided to prank call
because
the Washington Post,
and they're the muckraking bastards that Nixon was referencing.
Oh, okay, I didn't get that
on the tapes.
Okay, all right, now it's all making sense.
So they got them from the tapes.
Sure. So that's how they get set up with Woodward and Bernstein. It wasn't so random. It turns out the biggest idea of this movie is that they turn out to be Deep Throat, and the reason that they decide to call themselves that is because Betsy's brother just got busted by their parents. He said he was going to, I forgot what he said he was going to be doing, but he went to a porno movie, and Arlene was like, I don't understand the title. And Betsy leans over and whispers into her ear what Deep Throat actually means, and they're grossed out by it. But I
love that scene of them laughing out the window while Crocodile Rock is playing.
Yeah, good soundtrack. This movie, lots of good 70s songs. It's almost the exact same soundtrack to Guardians of the Galaxy. Awesome mix.
Yeah.
It's a lot of awesome mix on there. But I guess Peter Quill's mom would be about their age.
Mm-hmm.
In the timeline of Guardians of the Galaxy, so that would be the music from when she was a teenager. So that's why Awesome Mix is all the same music from the soundtrack. But that's why they called themselves Deep Throat, because they were like, it was so hilarious earlier in the very same evening, and they turn out to be the informants.
I love that when they meet Woodward and Bernstein in the parking garage. I love what they're wearing. This is their spy looks.
Oh, they're wearing trench coats.
They're in
right?
trench coats, hats, and big glasses.
Yeah,
because they're like.
Well, that's what you wear.
Spies.
That's what you wear to a clandestine parking garage meeting. You wear like a bucket hat and sunglasses and a trench coat. And I assume if you're on the East Coast, you probably have a trench coat, a top coat.
It rains a lot
of some kind.
I love their raincoats when they're being trailed.
Those are bathrobes
by the White House, but no, they were like.
They put on like plastic.
They put on like plastic raincoats.
Yeah, that's true. Like a pink and a blue one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also very Roman Michel. It's like corresponding colors. They eventually start getting tailed by the White House. Their houses are bugged. The White House plants like a fake boyfriend for Terry Garr to get distracted so he can keep tabs on Arlene. They almost get run off the road by like this government like this spy van. It's all very like Cloak and Dagger.
I love their big moment that they're not going to be pushed around. And Arlene says, 7 years ago, our fathers did something. I don't know what.
Yeah. Yeah. Because she's just like, they're treating us like bunch of teenagers, but we are teenage girls. And she's like, yeah, but we're Americans, and then she starts trying to recite the Gettysburg Address, but doesn't quite remember it. And it's very charming and it's very sweet. It's just like these two characters are just like, yeah, we don't deserve this shit.
But I also like that Betsy and Arlene are themselves proud Americans, and they feel like it's their civic duty to take down these people in the White House
because he's lying.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's lying. He's lying to everybody. He's mean, you know. And they use their powers for good to get Nixon to pull the troops out of Vietnam and to get the Russian, you know, peace meeting. But now that, you know, he's still doing some bad shit, they're like, all right, enough's enough.
They have to go get the tapes to give to Woodward and Bernstein at the house of James Foley.
Yes, Haldeman.
I love their hippie looks when they go to the house, too.
Yeah.
Because towards the end of the movie, they dress them more like hippies. Did you notice that?
Yeah, definitely.
It's less kind of junior, Little Miss Junior clothes, and they're going for more of a like a late 60s hippie.
Well, I think because the timeline is passing. You know, it is.
Yeah.
It has been 2 years now, so maybe now they're 17 by the end of the movie because it starts off and they're 15. So maybe now, after all this stuff is going on, they're growing up and they're coming into more of like an identity, and that is kind of a counterculture.
So they find a really cute boy washing a car outside of.
Well, yeah, they go to Haldeman's house. They get his address. They go to his house, and they're like, "How are we going to get in?" And there's a teenage boy washing a car, and they're like, "All right, that's his kid. Let's do this." And
it's Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, it's Ryan Reynolds.
The very early Ryan Reynolds movie too. I can't think of anything that he would have done prior to this.
A little show called 15.
Yeah, but he hadn't done a lot of movies, and I was reading that he was brought in by casting very late, I think as they were filming, and he wasn't even auditioned. The casting person was just like, yeah, you'll really like him. Don't even question it.
Yeah.
Just put him in the movie.
Yeah.
I was also reading that Kirsten Dunst was cast without even auditioning.
Well, I think at that point they were like, okay, let's bring in this girl.
Mm-hmm.
Since she was so kind of all over the place.
I really love when Kirsten's going to go seduce him upstairs or kind of use it as a distraction so Arlene can go find the tapes.
Yeah.
And I love that when things start to get a little heated, like when they're making out.
Yeah.
And then she excuses herself in the bathroom, and I really love the moment with Kirsten when she's collecting herself in the mirror.
Yeah.
I love that little bit of acting when she's she's like, oh man, this is actually happening. Because we don't know if this is Betsy's first time.
Yeah, these
with
are these are like innocent girls.
Yeah, but
and so she's just like, all right, I'm gonna go in there.
Kind of get this as a big moment for her.
She has to talk herself into it because she tells him like, do you want to make out? And he's like, all right. That's kind of all she doesn't really have a plan. She's just like, do you want to make out? And he's like, okay. So they go upstairs, and she's like, all right, now I gotta fucking make out with this dude so Arlene can come in and case the joint.
But I like that her character is kind of excited about it.
Yeah,
because it's something new that she has ever done before.
Yeah,
too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just like that little bit in the mirror when she's fixing her hair.
Yeah, it's cute. So they eventually steal the tapes, get the tapes to Woodward and Bernstein. That's when Betsy is like, I, transcribed everything on it, handed it over. Because I guess one of them has like doubts about taking the tapes because they're stolen.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess like maybe.
I guess it would be safer with a transcript.
Yeah. So, but she has a transcript because she passed typing, finally, 30 words a minute. And, it gets published and everybody gets taken down.
I love how the scene is cut to that song by Yes.
Sure.
I always really like the choice of that music as it's playing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good. That song about chess, it's not about chess. He says something about capturing the queen. So.
I've Seen All the Good People, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the name of it, but that one. You know it. It's from the 70s. Yeah, and then later on, after Dick eventually resigns and leaves the White House, that's all cut to You're So Vain.
I was reading an interview with Andrew Fleming that they had wanted Love Will Keep Us Together by Captain and Tennille, and Captain and Tennille said no. Because they objected to a lot of the content in the movie.
Aren't they like Republicans or something?
Yeah, they're super conservative.
I was going to say they're problematic, I think.
And they didn't like the movie. So they put as a placeholder You're So Vain, and it just cut together perfectly.
Yeah, cut really well.
Yeah. And they ended up getting the rights to this Carly Simon song.
Yeah.
And I don't know when I was like 14 watching this if I was super familiar with Carly Simon, but this sequence really made me love this song though.
Yeah.
Because of how it's used in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And they're cutting up the American flag, and she's like,
Isn't that illegal?
Isn't that illegal? Well, not if you sew it back together. They make themselves these cute American flag hippie looks, and they're painting a sign that says, "You suck, Dick," to display as Dick is flying off in his helicopter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they live in Betsy's parents live in Georgetown, so they assume they're going to be in the flight path of that helicopter, and they are. And it says "You suck, Dick," but there is an appropriate comma. So as written, it says "You suck, Dick." So it's they're not that dumb that it just says "You suck, Dick," but it's still a clever little joke. And yeah, they came to their senses. They realized Richard Nixon was acting like a piece of shit. They called him on it, and they took him down from the inside. And just the power of friendship.
Yeah, this movie is... What I think is super clever about it is that it challenged the norm at the time of what a teen movie was. Because we're just coming off of stuff like Can't Hardly Wait, 10 Things I Hate About You. And this movie kind of came out of nowhere. It's surprising that it even got made, too.
Why is that?
To do this teen movie about politics in the Nixon administration. And just sort of, how do you sell that at the time? Because they want for a teenage girl audience, and what teenagers care about any of that? And it's why it didn't do so well at the box office, but even at the time, it got really good reviews. And I was reading that Sony was looking at the reviews, and they said to the director, "This is one of the best reviewed movies we've had in years." So it's kind of, I mean, while I'm sure Andrew Fleming was kind of bummed that it didn't make a lot of money, it's something that he was very proud of, too.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's not typical subject matter for teen movies, and that was an era that there were just tons of teen movies, teen sex comedies, teen horror movies, mainstream, theatrical release teen movies.
This was the summer of '99, and also American Pie had just come out too, which brought back the raunchy movie genre from the '80s too.
Yeah, American Pie was kind of the first in the wave of these teen sex comedies. But yeah, I feel like this was just kind of its own thing. It was still funny in its own way, but it had a lot of those, like I said, Saturday Night Live and Kids in the Hall people behind it. So it just had a little bit more of a pedigree, I guess, than your standard teen comedy fare.
Also, watching 20 years later with our current president, it's very eerie to see how it matches up with the Trump administration.
Yeah, well,
because it seems that we're still we're kind of living in a very similar moment in American history, and I think it's kind of cool that these writers, the writer and director, could sort of do a revisionist take on it, and it makes me think, in 20 years, will we have a similar movie made about the Trump administration?
Sure.
Do you kind of get that?
Yeah, of course. I think the less said about politics now, the better. But I don't want to
totally
understand.
I don't want to make this political at all. But I think it's a very interesting movie to go back and
of course,
and look at our current.
Yeah, I was thinking that the whole time, but yeah. So yeah, I mean, just this. I think this movie speaks to the gays just because it has that great female friendship. They're talking about a guy in a romantic way, but it's Richard Nixon, so it's not really they're not really the romance is not driving these two characters.
They play it for laughs.
Yeah, and these two really have a strong relationship. There's never really a conflict between them. Nothing really.
They don't get broken up by their friendship doesn't get broken up by a boy. Too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They don't get the stakes are not okay. Well, they're not going to be friends because XYZ. One of them gets a relationship. One of them is jealous. One of them whatever. They start out friends. They remain friends, and their friendship is what helps them bring down a corrupt president. Yeah,
and it's so satisfying to see all of these guys get their ass handed to them by these two girls.
By two girls, yeah, and they're funny, they're charming. These two actresses are amazing in it. These performances stand up today, and they're just super cute. And it's a very charming movie. And if I definitely recommend watching this movie. If you can get your hands on it,
it holds
you haven't
up.
Seen it, definitely holds up, and I really enjoy it. Anything we didn't miss? Any final thoughts on Dick from 1999 and how much we love Dick?
What can I say? I just love Dick.
Yeah, it's got a great soundtrack. It's got great costuming. Very much feels like a movie from that period. There's some really fun stuff on the television with commercials from the era and TV shows that people just have on.
Definitely a love letter to the 1970s.
Yeah, for sure. You can really tell that it was made by people who grew up in this time frame. Just including a lot of little bits of furniture and just
There's Michelle Williams doing her exercises to increase her bust.
She must increase her bust. Yeah.
I love that.
Very topical of the time. But yeah, very charming movie. I definitely recommend it, and I think it really falls into this category of these strong, women and these female bonds and things that we definitely latch on to. And if you're a fan of Romeo and Michelle and Clueless and these great female friendships,
definitely
you definitely are gonna have an attachment to this movie. So, thumbs up for me.
Yeah, that's good. Check it out.
Yeah, definitely go check it out. Did we wrap this one up?
I think we're done.
I think we got it.
I think we got it.
Wow, good job, Scott. Join us next week. We'll be back again. Thanks for listening, everybody. You can find us on social media. Where are we on Instagram and Facebook, Scott?
We're on Facebook at Movies That Made Us Gay. Instagram, the same. And help me out with the Twitter handle. It is MTMUG
Pod.
We're going to get it.
MTMUG Pod.
We're going to get it one of these times.
That's our Twitter handle.
Give us a message. We'd love to hear
shout out to us
comments on it.
On Instagram. We love you guys commenting on all of our Instagram posts. Listen to the show. Recommend it to your friends.
And more importantly, give us 5 stars.
Give us 5 stars. Subscribe on iTunes and give us 5 stars. That makes us visible to everyone, and it just helps us out. It's free, and don't forget to leave us a message. We love you guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.